So our next topic will be about Adventism. We're both Adventists.
Yes, my dad is a pastor, and my mom is actually a second generation Adventist, and my dad became an Adventist after he met her. So, well, basically I grew up in an Adventist family, I'm a pastor's kid.
Pastor's kid.
Yeah.
I grew up, I think, probably second or third generation Adventist on my mom's side. My father grew up as a Lutheran, not really a non-practicing Lutheran, and converted to Adventism and married my mom, and has since their divorce moved away from the church. He was working as a journalist in the church, was involved in publications in Africa, has since left the church, and is kind of a pseudo-Christian Buddhist.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up with my Adventist side and then also a very liberal side. My father's very liberal, and he didn't teach me liberalism, but it's a part of me too. While being in his house, that's also a part of me. So.
I actually remember the first time I talked to you, I was asking where you were from, and you said Redlands, right?
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then I asked, oh, so you're an Adventist? And I remember you have this expression of, yeah, kind of, you know.
I'd rather say I'm a Christian than an Adventist, because for me Adventism doesn't mean salvation and Christ does. So that's where I'm at, which brings me to the topic of Sabbath and Sabbath keeping. And I would like to know what your opinion is about Sabbath. Where is its place in the grand scheme of things, and is it truly important, or as important as the Adventist Church makes it out to be?
I kind of think I'm quite a liberal person, but there's some things that I'm really conservative about. One of them is diet. I mean, I'm not vegetarian. I think that would be ultra conservative. But the Sabbath for me, sort of personally for me, it's like a cornerstone in my spiritual life. Like, sort of there's something I can come back to every week. I have friends who absolutely goes away from what the conservative Adventist church believes in, which is, you don't buy anything on Sabbath, you don't watch TV, read newspapers. This friend was criticized and, had quite a lot of conflict with the church because of this. For me, when I talk to him, I really don't like to criticize anyone for just buying breakfast on Sabbath morning. I think my principle lies in what the Bible says and God's intention. Like, if you really have to work on Sabbath, and if you have to take an exam on Sabbath, I'm not going to say that's wrong, you're going to hell or anything. But I think for every one of us, what I say is, go back to the Bible, see what the Bible says, and what is God's intention when He created the Sabbath? Sometimes on earth we can't do everything perfectly, but then it doesn't give us the excuse that, okay, because we can't do it, we just disregard it. It's not important at all. I think you have to get a balance of, this is important, but I'm not going to use this as like the measuring stick for others.
Right. I think it's interesting speaking about the Sabbath from a Sabbath-keeping perspective. We're both Adventists since very young, and it's easier for us to say, listen, find a balance as a Sabbath keeper. And for me, promulgating that idea and telling others what they should and shouldn't do, or telling others, hey, come to the Adventist church because of the Sabbath, not because of Christ, who is the center of our church and of our doctrine. And I think, for me, that's something that deeply disturbs me. It deeply disturbs me that we think people should first keep the Sabbath and then follow Christ. If God is truly not a God who we put in a box, then He's not going to judge people because of the Sabbath. Jesus went out and performed miracles on Sabbath, which was completely contradictory to what the Pharisees dictated at the time. And so for me, it is still important. I've had to work this year on Sabbath, and it's been uncomfortable, but it's something I've had to do. I feel like God understands who I am and what my priorities are. And It depends. It's different for everybody. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. I was just saying how it's not specific decisions and events that we do on the Sabbath that somehow determine our salvation. It's an attitude we develop in life. And like we were saying earlier, the Sabbath is something that is personal to everybody. And for me, I don't believe there should be rules that we somehow establish cans and cannots. It's about what you feel in your heart towards God and how He speaks to you. And He truly does speak to everybody differently. For me, the Sabbath is still important, but it's not for me to decide if it's important for somebody else. I think that's for God to decide.
Maybe we can go from there.
Yeah.
How does this affect people's relationship with the church? I mean, for someone like you, maybe you would do something, maybe the pastor of the church wouldn't approve of. How does that affect your relationship with the church?
I think for me, I personally I choose not to share certain aspects of my life with people from the church.
I think it's sad.
It is sad, but it's like Paul says in, I don't remember what epistle, but just talking about whether it's unclean or clean, it doesn't matter. That what's important is your heart is clean, and we don't want to offend other people who are part of the community. And so, by not telling them, I'm not offending them, and I'm not somehow challenging their faith, because their faith is different from mine.
Yeah.
But it is a shame. You're right.